if in summer we had not investing in building capacity. The European Investment Bank issued a loan of over 100 million. The European Commission has invested in capacity building, not just for BioNTech, Pfizer, but for all the other companies with whom we have contracts. And what we now see is that we are reaping the benefit of that. I'm very much convinced that this European course of action was the right one, and I think that will be proven in hindsight as well. There's a second point which, in my view, which I think is overlooked. We're not just talking about us in Europe, of course. We're talking about our neighbourhood as well. The idea is that in the situation where we look around ourselves in our neighbourhood, we should make it possible for our neighbours to receive vaccines. That is, those countries which don't have the financial resources, they need our support and assistance. And if you look at the shape of our portfolio today, these 6 different contracts that we have in place, if they are all effective, then we have an overall volume of 2.3 billion vaccine doses. Sometimes you have to provide 2 vaccinations, so that can't be translated in the number of vaccinations itself. But this is a large portfolio, a large range that shows that we have more than sufficient vaccine, and that shows that we in Europe should think not only of ourselves but also of our neighbourhood and our vicinity, that we think of other countries which require more support.
Thank you. We move to Patrizia Antonini. Patrizia.
President, thank you for this briefing. So I would like to ask you whether you're happy with the Italian vaccination rate. Are we doing a good job? And I would also like to ask you whether if Italy would risk to lose the recovery funds in case of a political crisis. And the last is, but I think you already clarified, is did Germany negotiate these 30 millions of vaccination of vaccines of Pfizer, BioNTech in a European framework or in a bilateral one? Thank you.
So I think I clarified, to start with the last question, I clarified that we have a legally binding framework. Within this framework, we are all working together. Now, what the situation of the vaccination progress is concerned, so I must say I'm very pleased that all member states do their utmost to move forward with their vaccination plans. The beginning is always difficult because you have to come with a completely new procedure. It is a logistical challenge because this vaccine has to have an ongoing cooling chain, for example. But it is impressive to see how fast the member states are moving forward to adapt to that. As I said, it's an advantage that we now have additional doses of the same vaccine, so we can use the logistics that have been put forward now. We are monitoring the vaccination progress with ECDCs, so we're getting back from the member states the numbers of vaccination. Of course, we have to step up. It has to get more. We have to raise the numbers of vaccinations rapidly. And it is important that in our steering group, where all 27 member states are represented, we, in an ongoing process, have kind of a benchmarking on what are the lessons learned, what are the successes, where are the difficulties or the challenges to move forward as fast as possible, that over time we have a vaccination of the population that is sufficient. What your third question is concerned, the Next Generation EU, the Resilience and Recovery Fund, we are in very good talks with the Italian government, like any other government too. But now specifically, there's a good progress. Of course, independent of different political situations, we are negotiating with member states. We have clear conditions under which the Recovery and Resilience Fund is accessible. So it's investment and reforms. It is the European Green Deal that has to be respected. A large amount of money has to be invested in those projects. It's the digitalization and it's the resilience. That is what counts for us.
We now move to Julien Gasparuto, France 2.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, absolument, Julien, vas-y.
Bonjour.
Good morning, Madam President. We see that you're trying now to catch up by ordering more vaccines now. Isn't this, though, a little bit too late? At the end of November, the beginning of December, that's when we saw Pfizer really pulling ahead. And we've seen that today some regions want to try and get around the European strategy. So is it not actually a failure, this lagging behind, this delay?
Nein, im Gegenteil.
No, on the contrary. This shows that the steps we took were the right ones. I would ask you not to forget that Pfizer-BioNTech announced itself at the beginning of December that globally, they were halving their supplies. That was an announcement made by the firm itself. So we were faced with a situation where we had huge demand, but the production capacity hadn't kept pace with that as yet. Now we have a positive step forward. As you will have gathered from the media, the BioNTech's Pfizer production capacity is being expanded. That's good and that's important. That's something that we fully support. And on the basis of that decision, it's now possible to extend the contract. And this illustrates that it was right to bet on this particular horse, if I can put it that way. In other words, to include BioNTech Pfizer in our portfolio of 6 vaccines. It was important for us right from the outset to invest in the building of capacity. I think this point is constantly overlooked. We wouldn't be where we are today without investing in production capacity. We're now reaping the benefits of that. We've seen that new production sites are being opened up or licensed, and that makes it possible to work on a basis of confidence with which we're working with BioNTech Pfizer to double the contract.
Thank you very much. I now move to Peter Kappan.